SSSVV is a treasure chest overflowing with digital resources that are accessible with a click of a mouse. Engaging lesson plans, interactive training, and multimedia aids make learning fun and effective. No matter the location, teachers become superheroes, empowered to deliver world-class education to every student. Here, with a compact presentation to highlight the SSSVV deliverables of content, training, and teaching aids, we have with us the respective team leads, Srimati Suhasini Nagraj, Dr. Chandra Janakraman, and Sri Keshaba Mishra. Their collaborative efforts have produced remarkable resources for our mainstay project. 3 dedicated contributors deserve 3 times the applause. Let's give them a resounding welcome.
Loving salutations at dear Bhagwan's lotus feet, the Master of our and Lord of us. And very warm greetings to everyone who's present here. Namaste, Sai Ram. In the next few minutes, me and my 2 colleagues will be rushing through a journey which takes us through the foundation level of what Sri Satya Sai Vidya Vahini and especially the IIEP, insightful, inspiring, enjoyable, and participative across 4 domains that was brought forth by Dakshayani sister. So 2 questions that we will be taking forward. 1, what is that strong underlying principle behind all the 4 pillars and the 4 domains? And our second question that we will be taking you through is how are we implementing it or integrating it in all the content that is created across SSSVV. So coming to the very first question, why did we create content at all? Where was the need? There was a textbook. And here comes Swami's 2 very important guiding principles to us. The first one, end of knowledge, is wisdom. End of knowledge is wisdom. And wisdom is not knowledge alone. Obviously, there has to be experience, there has to be judgment, and there has to be common sense. So 4 components make wisdom. And here, if the learning is going to happen only by using textbooks, how will this knowledge get converted into wisdom? That does not seem all right. Second quote, end of education is character. Again, if academics alone is stressed upon, how will character development happen? 3, nothing happens unless the mind primes open to receive information. And in that case, if that does not happen, a classroom is not enjoyable and no learning can happen. So we needed some kind of a teaching learning material which can bring all these 3 components and fill that gap which was necessary for us to bring in these 2 and align ourselves with our Lord who has created these beautiful institutions here. So, So coming to the very first thing, how does deep and meaningful education happen? When we were told that we are going to have our National Education Summit in this beautiful Sai Hira Convention Center, the very first thing that happened was, okay, what is so special about this place that we need to have it here? What is it that is special about the acoustics, which is considered world-class, about the in general about the way the things are laid out, about the sound system, about the beautiful screen that is put out here. And all of this created so much of curiosity that we wanted to take it forward and know more about this place. And that curiosity led us to explore further, and exploration came in. And exploration was further followed by a visit to this place, go into the videos, check out what all is there so that we get to understand it better, deeper, perceptive input, sensory inputs through perception deepened our understanding. And then came, okay, we discussed amongst each other, okay, this is so good, this is what needs to be done, those are the seats, those are the surrounding areas, the sound system. And all this reflection got us deeper into the understanding. And finally, we, at my level, and each one of our level, we started comparing it with all those beautiful places where we have had our previous session, be it Music Academy in Chennai or some other places where many of my colleagues have gone. And all this made us compare. And this critical thinking of bringing comparison, evaluation, doing better, deepened it further. So these four had to be, came together and integrated in order to make the learning more insightful, meaningful, practical, and we wanted to create this in our classrooms. So how to create this? How to start a class with a curiosity? And that is where our questions called inquisitive, because they create inquisitiveness. And that asset, that component came in, and IQ was there. Along with that came TLM or LTM, that is teaching learning material. And the third component that came in was teaching learning aids, the example of which was shown by Dakshani. We'll be taking it forward a little bit more. And so also perception. Perception required these in a classroom, so we brought in videos or other things. But at this juncture, I think Keshaba brother would want to add a little bit more on this second component, namely perception. Over to you, brother.
Thank you, ma'am. So before talking about perception, I would like everyone to watch this video. It's a muted video you can watch. Is she distracted? Not from the phone, but from her primary duties as a student. Is she distracted? Yes? You may say, someone may say that, see, they cannot say because there is not enough input is there. Only we are seeing her walking here and there. So these kind of inputs, when we get lot of inputs through our different senses, that brings a lot of perception about the learning and learning to happen. Now I would request ma'am to change to the next slide. Now we'll see what exactly she is doing. So this is an augmented reality experience the student is going through. Let us say, to know about the orientation of each state, we have 4 options. Let us say 4 options. The first option is that teacher draws something on the blackboard and the students see that, chalk and talk method. The second option can be a map on the wall. The student watches it and learns about it. Third option can be a huge India map with well-defined state boundaries on a ground. Yes, this will be the best option, but there is a limitation. It is limited only to that place, that school, and to those students of that school. But here, we are using augmented reality with one creation. The whole world, all the students can watch, and also it is inclusive. The student who is on a wheelchair cannot go to the India map drawn on the ground, but here the student can use with a smartphone. So the perception we get through this teaching aids is it means a lot for the student to learn. But with perception, there should be something else. What is that, ma'am?
That's right. Thank you, brother. So there is a perception that comes into the Satya Sai Vidya Vahini classroom and content through the teaching learning aids like this and many more, simpler ones. And then we want more reflection, more understanding, more explanation, and we bring in our another asset called as main script, which explains the whole concept, and that is followed by many of my previous speakers were talking about it. The idea that you get of going into, let's say, deeper understanding with the help of establishing a connection with their day-to-day, which is, in our terms, day-to-day relevance. So we have a DD asset which brings in that deeper engagement and reinforcement as well. And there are all along questions to assess, which are formative type, which means we ask questions. There's a constant discussion that is enabled in a classroom. And all of this, unless there is curiosity, perception, reflection, and critical thinking, accompanied by exploration and creative thinking as well, that all this brings about, makes the learning insightful. But unless the classroom has a climate where teacher is enabling all that, it will not happen. To talk a little bit more about classroom climate, Chandra will be coming to that part in the classroom. Over to you, Chandra.
Thank you, ma'am. Definitely, the classroom climate has to create that feeling of equity, safety, and to promote curiosity in students. So we have to empower teachers to go beyond content delivery and to think about creating that kind of a conducive environment in the classroom. So this comes when the teacher is confident about the subject matter, is confident about their pedagogy skills, and is competent in classroom management. So our training has evolved over the years. Many of the teachers here have been with us through our journey all these years. You know that when we started training with 7 assets, how to use the 7 assets, how to use our content in the classroom. But now we have become more conscious of the changing educational needs. We have been conscious of the changing educational needs, and this need has become even more urgent with the rollout of NEP 2020. So now we are training teachers to empower and upskill themselves to enable students to attain their learning outcomes. We have been talking about the teacher all along, but we see another stakeholder in the classroom. Would you like to talk about the other stakeholder, brother?
Yes. Other than teacher, student is the main stakeholder in the classroom. So if we look at these 2 images, I think nothing much to be explained. One place we have overwhelming technology access, and the other place it is Kala Akshar Bhains Barabar. And they contribute to the dropout rates of our country. How to address it? Let's keep thinking. Meanwhile, I'll request Suhasini ma'am to share some thoughts how to address it.
Okay, so here we are with a classroom that has classroom climate, that has classroom reflection, curiosity, and perception. But all this, despite setting a very strong academic background, can this lead to character building? Comes our second idea and the thought. And so we take over to another aspect of it. How to bring motivation? How to bring about the heart, how to make the heart blossom is what we've been talking about since morning for a while now. So let us look at what education system was. I think this morning session was also addressed in that manner. Prashanthi Nilayam is a place where what I'm going to talk about is already enabled. But how do we create a Gurukulam or Gurukula system in every school of ours all over the country? So we have to look at what situation was at that time and what situation is also prevalent in Prashanthi Nilayam now. The students lived with their gurus and with the other students. Living with the gurus in a beautiful scenic surrounding environment, invariably forest, created in them an amazement, an awe, a wonderment about how something that you only looking at a beautiful star-studded sky or the animal and the birds can bring about. Now, all these changes that were all this brought about a lot of awe in them, and that in turn also brought love, care, concern, empathy for their fellow students and for the guru and the family. So in this manner, awe and wonder, that is, we use the word empathy for the other society members. And then something beyond, there is a power, there is a creator, and that respect for that who has created all this, reverence came about, and all this was very natural unfoldment in the surrounding that the education was taking place, and that change was more intrinsic, more innate, more a felt experience for the students, and the transformation happened, brought about. Now, in Satya Sai Vidya Vahini, in our classrooms, how to transfer that whole experience. And we have this asset, the value content asset, the VC asset as we call it, and we use these assets to bring about all these four, one after the other. How we bring about, what is the method that we use? We have stories, we have songs, depending on the stages that they are in. And there is also a lot of discussion and activity to further reinforce that. Chandra would like to talk here about how it is, how value education or value content asset is enabled in the classroom.
We have 4 training modules. We have training modules for teachers which focus on 4 core competencies, as you can see. And one of them is rapport building. Now, this includes value education techniques like how to use stories, songs, and skits in the classroom effectively. Dakshayani sister had mentioned earlier, and even Professor M.K. Sridhar had mentioned that every child is capable of learning. This is a guideline that has come about in NEP 2020. We at SSSVV have been having this as our central principle for our entire program. Okay, so every child, irrespective of their background, deserves an opportunity to acquire knowledge and skills and to develop positive attitude and values. So our training modules keep this in focus. This, our value content has to be transacted effectively as the training has been provided. It has to be transacted effectively, only then that intrinsic motivation can be brought out and that transformation will eventually follow. Would you like to?
I hope you must have got some clue with the 2 presentations with Suhasini ma'am and Chandra ma'am. Some transformation is required to address this problem. So when we talk about transformation, one is the affective domain. The other one is, can there be some attraction in the classroom itself, which will bind the children into the classroom? There is no dropout rate. At the same time, children with lot of access to the technology don't go into depression. So for that purpose, my guru, guide, Swami Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba has once remarked, when we showed our first animation to Swami, that time he remarked, "Idi pillalinu akarsistundi." This will attract the children. And that has been our mantra to create teaching learning aids which will attract children. Definitely they will address the academic requirements, but it will attract the children. That has been our guiding principle. But only attractive teaching learning aids will not suffice. The joy of teaching learning interactions also need to be kept in mind. So on that, I request Suhasini ma'am to address us.
That's right. That's right, brother. We need a little bit more of engagement. I recall a conversation that I had with a student of mine way, way, way back. This was a grade 10 student, and she comes running and she asks me, how do you manage to teach the same content year after year without getting bored? And I'm sure maybe many of the teachers who are here will probably have that, unless the syllabus changes, we are teaching the same content. So my response to her was, I don't teach the content. I teach the students who are changing year after year after year, and therefore I'm looking for newer and newer approaches and methods because my class demands it. My students are different. The composition is different. I need to change my strategy. And Satya Sai Vidya Vahini, keeping that in mind, has constantly evolved and changed strategy. So of every new content we create, practically every year the content that we create, we bring about a change in our approach. And thanks to NEP and NCFSC, we have brought in art integrated, music integrated, case study based, all that Dakshayani sister talked about. And where is the enjoyable element in it? Coming to that, a teacher has to create an environment in a classroom which is so vibrant, and the students have the freedom to ask questions. A class should not be quiet. Yes, no way. The students should have the freedom to make mistakes. It's okay. And the students should have the freedom to take the concept forward in the manner that they want, not the way I say, no, this is the only approach. I have an incident which I would love to bring about maybe a little later if time permits, and which it will not. So coming to, yes, so we need to provide that freedom. We need to provide positivity in a classroom. We need to bring about spontaneity, which is so natural for a child, and a small child comes instantly out with answers. And we snub as a teacher because we don't have time, we want to complete the syllabus. That should not happen for a classroom to be enjoyable. And finally, there has to be a bonding between the student and the teacher. We talked about that in higher education, SSSIHL as well. Yes, that bonding makes a huge, huge difference in bringing about enjoyable element into a classroom. But talking about how to build that in the classroom, I think Chandra will have a few pointers to add. Over to you.
Since 2015, we have been conducting short training modules called huddles in our schools. These are based on cross-cutting skills that expand the skill base of teachers. Three of the topics covered in these huddles are art of questioning, art of storytelling, and teacher-student bonding. These are just three. There are many topics. So if you look at these three topics, all of them work to make the teaching learning process enjoyable. And not just enjoyable for the student, but also enjoyable for the teacher, because one need not preclude the other. As teachers build more skills, they learn how to ask better questions, how to respond to questions that students ask, and also how to use stories and songs and other tools as teaching tools. So this makes, this broadens the teacher's horizon and builds a strong bond between the teacher and the student, as ma'am had mentioned. One other way to make the classroom enjoyable is to make students part of the process. So ma'am will talk about how in SSSVV, we bring the participative element into the classroom.
Yes, the participative element reminds me and takes me back to another classroom of mine, in which it was towards the end of the year. Students were pretty bored and tired and exhausted, which they are more than the teachers, and they didn't want to proceed. And the chapter, I have been a geography teacher incidentally, so we were doing regional, there was this chapter left on Kenya. A regional geography of Kenya had to be done. So what we did was, I passed it on to the students. I said, you have to prepare, plan, and come about and deliver this class. And it was amazing. It was a grade 7 class, and the students came with props, with different costumes, and the way they conducted the class, I was absolutely aghast and tempted. They took the responsibility to start with. Responsibility came about as a side, alongside the dynamism to see how all can they make their classroom, they were making a classroom, more impactful. And with that, they also there was a lot of collaboration amongst them. And that made them take ownership for the whole thing. And that had to be created in a classroom, every classroom. And Shri Satya Sai Vidya Vahini creates this through its suggested activity asset. Students are allowed to come from end to end, do what they want to do as plan, prepare, and deliver. And that makes them take responsibility, take ownership finally, and therefore the learning is much more deeper, we are now getting closer to our IIEP classroom with these 6 essential requirements or nutrients which can bring it about in a classroom. So, Keshaba, do you think you want to add about the participative process, or Chandra, you can want to take lead on that?
Okay. I would like to quickly talk about one other hurdle which directly focuses on classroom management. Because if a teacher has to conduct activities or to hold a discussion in the classroom, the teacher needs that confidence that I can manage the class. I will not lose control of the class, right? So we have one hurdle that specifically works on the skills and strategies of classroom management. And also since last year, periodically we have been adding short training modules on the LMS that also give bite-sized tools and techniques to teachers that they can take to the classroom and implement to improve the classroom management. Now, when the classroom environment promotes this interaction, where the teacher is confident that, yes, I can manage the classroom, I can give instructions beforehand, and my students will do what they are supposed to do, then the teacher is more confident in doing activities and conducting discussions. And this also helps students take more responsibility for their learning, as you had just mentioned, ma'am.
So, can I take over?
Sure.
Yeah. So, the teacher is confident and the students take the responsibility of learning. So, can I say that the students are on the path of self-learning?
Yes, you can. It definitely.
So, the self-learning doesn't happen only in the classroom. We must have seen when after a World Cup winning, when the bulletin board is filled with number of posters, photographs and all, we see students gathered around the bulletin board and start watching, learning about it. Is it not self-learning? That's what in Vidya Vahini also we do. We call it as corridor domain, because generally we see this self-learning happens on the corridor on a bulletin board. So to keep it simple, we named the domain as corridor. So any space where the student interacts with any inanimate object and learns something, interacts with the inanimate object, we call it as an immersive space. So when the child interacts, there is something very beautiful, enchanting thing on the space, and the child gets engaged with it, that gets immersed in it. That's how Vidya Vahini designs the corridor. And what we provide to the school? We provide the schools many creations, many designs, and many ideas. Let us take a simple idea. In the school, there are clocks, wall clocks. Can the math teacher put a masking tape, which can be easily removed, and on the masking tape, the teacher can write square root of 4 for 2, square root of 9 for 3, like that, or hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron by a chemistry teacher. And later on, it can be reused. And we provide templates for geo, which can be put on the wall just by printing and laminating, which can be reused. At the same time, we provide concept-based graphic organizers, concept-based game boards, as well as blank game boards where teacher can customize it as per the concept. These are the things we provide. And other than that, there is something little bit about pedagogy, which I'll request Suhasini ma'am to tell about.
Regarding corridor as an immersive space, further spreads out into a larger domain. And Chandra, you will take the next domain over.
Definitely, ma'am. Beyond the classroom and corridor is another powerful domain of influence where you can think about the library, the dining room, the playground, and auditorium. What do all of these reflect? These reflect the culture of the school. So the culture actually defines the institute. Where there is a vision and an environment is created, that environment helps to realize that vision. This culture of the school is not limited only to the physical space, and it is not defined only by the programs conducted in the school. It is the processes that create the culture. If the school wants to be known for regular Veda chanting, or the school wants to be known for excellence in sports, it's the processes that make it happen. SSSVV is collaborating with schools to create these process documents that help them design these activities and programs that build a culture, an enabling culture in our schools. Now, beyond this campus, there is another domain where, again, we are involved in deeper engagement with the schools. Ma'am, would you like to talk about that?
Yes, Chandra, thank you. So we kind of increased our circle of domain of influence, the sphere of influence. We moved out from classroom and we went into a corridor, we went into campus, and there's a huge domain which lies beyond, very powerful, very impactful, and that is community. So how does community impact? I'll share with you two incidences. One, there is a particular school. It's a Satya Sai Vidya Vahini associated school, and they have this practice that they have established themselves as the school for sports in that surrounding locality by winning. They won many accolades in different sports. Now, who trained them to come about and be where they are? You'll be surprised, none other than their own old students, the alumni of the campus. The second incident where the students are learning practical skills of living on a day-to-day basis. Skills like carpentry, skills like plumbing, skills like electrical work, and all of that. And who's coming and teaching them after school hours? Most days of the week, it's their own parents. So parents come to the school. The parents and alumni are the most important stakeholders in the community who can be capitalized upon to expand the sphere of influence. Beyond that come many other. I'll take one more example, the Satya Sai Vidya Vahini initiative of Space on Wheels. I think this did come about. It has come about, it is a very powerful manner in which Vidya Vahini has supported the schools, a mobile van for carrying all the models and other different display programs, posters, are brought by this mobile van, which is an initiative of ISRO, of course. And that comes and parks itself in one particular school, and all the surrounding schools are enabled. So we've had instances where more than 50 schools have come there, and thousands of students have benefited from this initiative. This is community's power and impact that can bring about a change. So we talk about three things here. The first one, of course, there is buttermilk seva, which many schools do. There are more service-oriented medical camps and all that. The best part is, right from planning up to preparation of any one of these programs, and how to collect people, how to assemble, how to, on given day, how to put them in order. All of it is taken care of by students, bringing collaboration, leadership, any one of these 21st century skills that we talk about in this process. So it's all built in. And so we have these 4 domains, and which kind of brings a holistic completion to a schooling experience of a student, and in turn it takes them to becoming an ideal citizen of the country as well. So IIEP into 4C, as we understand it, is the program. As a teacher, I have felt how strongly this can bring about an impact if it is taken right from one end to the other end, because it does not limit itself to any particular area. Sorry. Yeah, so coming to the journey that we've traveled so far, we've talked about 4 domains. We've talked about insightful, inspiring, enjoyable, and participative. All those keywords which we kept in mind while creating the content, we continue to do that. We continue to believe that unless all these are fulfilled, a school, a classroom cannot be impactful. And this is not only a classroom, as we see, it is there in corridor, it is there in campus, it is there in community, it is there in content, it is there in training, it is there in multimedia, it is there in every deliverable that Shri Satya Sai Vidya Vahini brings about. And that is what makes it what it is. So if a child goes through all of that, he turns out to be a complete, the vision of Swami that we talked about, wisdom, the end of knowledge is wisdom, and the end of education is character, will come about. Coming to the final wrapping up stage, how do we create and how do we standardize? It's a 3-month-long process that we spend upon creating one single MLP. We begin on a planner. There is no time for us to share. But yes, those interested may reach out to us. There's a very systematically, structurally thought through planner on which more than 3 people, at least at a time, engage to get the best plan in place. And then that is followed by creation, reviews at various levels that Dakshani sister talked about, 2 levels of review. There is twice the review, not once. And after the review is over, there are quality checks. And how do we review our content? We have a rubric, which is a 12-pointer, 12 into 5 different parameters, and we go about reviewing the content, so also the multimedia. And all this, so interestingly, we found aligns with what IIEP, the NEP 2020 and NCFSC 2023 talks about. So we borrow from there, we bring more from there, and make our content enriched further. And that is how we reach the Diksha Diksha platform and uploaded all our content into it. So coming to that, Chandra, there are similar practices in training as well. So I will have you share that with everyone here.
Surely, ma'am. Our training has also evolved over the years, and currently we have a 360-degree continuous professional development program. This is delivered in 3 stages, through the LMS, and then through online sessions, and then finally through in-person trainings. This covers subject expertise, pedagogy skills, then competency-based training. Then we do training in lesson plan creation, and the lesson plan review is also done by us. And then there is classroom observation and also feedback provided to the teachers by us. So any teacher who is open to learning, when they go through this CPD program, they can build themselves professionally to even become teacher educators. Right? So this kind of a deep engagement, we are currently able to do only with a small number of schools that are part of our Lighthouse School program. So here we have identified 17 developmental goals across 3 developmental areas of institute, teacher, and student. And once the schools hit the 5th milestone on all of these developmental goals, they are not only lighthouses that can help the other schools and support the other schools, they also become NEP compliant in their processes. Now, this level of deeper engagement with the schools is helping us get insights into various aspects of the school system and the education system, and we are trying to leverage those insights to create this teacher education program that we are soon going to offer on the Swayam Plus platform as well. all of this LMS content is, of course, enriched by the multimedia team. So, brother, would you like to share about your process and your planning as well?
Yes, ma'am. For creating teaching learning aids, we call it as NETI flowchart. So the previous example, let me quote. Earlier we thought the map on the wall. So we say it NETI. It doesn't help. Let's go to next. So we draw a map on the ground. Here the objective attainment happens. But there also we say NETI because that is not scalable. We cannot do everywhere for all the schools. So we come to augmented reality where it is scalable and it meets the objective. So for that purpose, the two basic principles we follow is meeting the primary objective and following the SMR principle. These are the two things we follow to create our teaching learning aids.
Thank you, brother, for bringing about that clarity. Now to conclude, the team behind the scene. There are 3 of us here, more than 100 behind the scene, who work really hard, sometimes in multiple roles and always in multiple teams as well. They are our mentors, the authors, the trainers, the academic coordinators, the multimedia volunteers, the multimedia reviewers and mentors. Without every one of their dedicated contributions, we wouldn't be where we are with our 40,000 plus odd assets. So grateful to every one of them who's working silently behind the scenes and making this a reality so that we can scale it up further. We can scale it up and there will be many more whom we will probably not be able to acknowledge and they are not here. Otherwise, if the number is large, they are all over the world. Thank you so much for being there with us in this journey. It was no sightseeing bus tour, but a real roller coaster ride that we took you through. But we are happy that we brought you to the foundation level of where Satya Sai Vidya Vahini stands. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, dear team leads, for taking us through the journey of Satya Sai Vidya Vahini and for letting us know what goes behind the scenes to empower teachers' fingertips with digital strength.